Hi everyone, today Phone Arena is taking a look at the Alcatel One Touch Fierce, which is currently available from T-Mobile. The full price of the device is $164, or if you choose their simple choice plan, it's $20 down and $6 per month over 2 years. The Alcatel One Touch Fierce, it's pretty much a introductory low-end smartphone. Because of the price, $164. It's not going to have high-end features that you're going to see like on a Galaxy S4 or something like that, but it still manages to have pretty decent features here for the average consumer. Across the front of the display here, it's 4.5 inches. Underneath that, you have your capacitive buttons for back, home, and recent apps. Up on top is a standard VGA camera. That's a 0.3 megapixel VGA camera, which you can use for self pictures or video chatting. Up on top is the 3.5 millimeter headset jack with power lock key. Around on the right side is the volume rocker. Even though it's a little bit of a different color, it's pretty recessed into the surrounding plastic, so you can't really distinguish it just by touch alone. Around on the back is the 5 megapixel camera with LED flash. Removing the cover, have your SIM card slot and micro SD card slot. The battery, it's a 1800 milliamp battery. Unfortunately, the battery is not removable, which means you can't get another standard battery or an extended battery for the device, so you're pretty much limited to just the battery that's on there. Also, the speaker down here on the bottom and the micro USB port on the back. So it's pretty compact in size here, as you can see next to the Samsung Galaxy S4. Not quite as big in either height or width or depth for that matter. It's also pretty lightweight as well. Fits comfortably in the hand. The soft touch coating on the back provides a nice grip. It's available in two colors, either this sort of metallic-y blue or silver. So let's continue on and take a look at the One Touch Fierce. As with any smartphone, one of the most important aspects of it is the display. Like we mentioned, it's 4.5 inches in size, which is pretty normal these days, not too big, not too small. Our only main disappointment with the display is that it's got a bit of a bluish hue to it. It may not show up really well here in the video, but seeing the device in person, even though it's LCD, everything has got more of a blue hue tint. Something that we haven't really seen on LCDs or even AMOLED displays recently in several years. So not really sure which LCD technology they're using here, but images are going to have that little bit of a color shift to it. As far as the user interface is concerned, it's running pretty close to stock Android 4.2.2. Which is going to be a Jelly Bean. So as you can see here, you have basic 5 home screens, or you can add 7 home screens like other devices. There's also no extra themes or extra customization like you might see on an HTC or Samsung or LG device. It's pretty much a stock Android on here. Also has a couple extra applications will kind of run down here. You got a FM radio which you can use, but of course for that you got to plug in a pair of headsets. You have your Lookout mobile security, which is pretty much like an antivirus for your cell phone here. T-Mobile includes their My Account, T-Mobile Name ID, and T-Mobile TV, which comes with a 30-day free trial. We'll launch this app here and see what's currently playing. Go into our live channels. Have not a huge selection. You got Fox News, Associated Press, Bloomberg, ESPN, ABC Mobile. Go into Fox News, I guess, here. Well, okay. and take a look at this. Switch over to landscape mode. Quality isn't that great on the live streaming. It's a little bit stuttering, but still not that bad if you want to look for some live video on there. Pretty much everything else is going to be stock Android. That includes your email applications, calendar. Everything else is pretty much stock on there. Like we said, the only extra things that are included are some of those extra T-Mobile applications. For processing performance, the Alcatel One Touch Fierce comes with a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core MediaTek processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM. Now, even though it's a quad-core processor, it really doesn't feel like one. As you can see by our Antutu benchmark results, we got 13,774. Now, in comparison, the Motorola Moto X is about 18,000. The HTC One is 23,000, and Samsung Galaxy S4 is 24,000. So even though it's quad core, it's really performing closer to maybe like a dual core processor from a couple years ago. Quandrit benchmarking score was also pretty low at 4,890, which is about half that of the Motorola X and about 4 times less than the Samsung Galaxy S4. Still in all, for the price, it's not that bad. Can feel a bit sluggish at times though, especially when running multiple applications, going between the home screens, doing any type of multitasking. Would have preferred a little bit better processor on here, maybe a Qualcomm, but the MediaTek we're sure was chosen for the lower cost, help keep costs down on the device. So as long as you're running just basic applications, shouldn't be that big of an issue. For your web browsing experience, the Google Chrome browser comes standard. It's pretty simple to use here. Obviously, Google Chrome is pretty much the standard these days. Of course, you can always install another browser if you want. It's not terribly quick as far as the scrolling and the pinch to zoom. You can see it does kind of stutter there a little bit, most likely due to the processor that's used, but still, it's passable. For your internet connection and data, it can make use of UMTS, HSDPA+, and AWS bands at 850, 1900, and 2100 megahertz. Right now we're connected with T-Mobile's 4G and pretty much getting download speeds anywhere between 8 to 12 megabits per second, pretty much depending on the time of day. Sometimes at night it may peak up to 15 megabits per second downloads. For uploads, usually getting only anywhere between 2 and 4 megabits per second. So not terribly fast, but then 8 to 15 megabits per second download really isn't that bad if all you're using data for is basically web and email usage. The camera interface is pretty simple and easy to use. You have some icons over here on the left for different modes such as standard shooting, HDR, phase, panorama. Going into the actual settings here, different things for exposure, color effects, scene modes, white balance, ISO, image size. Gives you some nice adjustments. As far as the actual camera is concerned, it's a standard 5 megapixel fixed focus camera. Means it lacks autofocus, so your subject's going to have to be a good 5-6 feet away from you for them to be in focus. But even at that, images taken outside, even on a sunny day, kind of look dull and lifeless and dreary. Color reproduction is also not really that great. So we're really not that impressed here as far as the camera. Indoor images, even with bright light, it's still going to be kind of blurry, fuzzy looking, and as far as the LED flash, it's really not that bright enough to illuminate a room. As far as recording videos, it's pretty much limited to a 720p resolution at 30 frames per second. So video recording quality, it's again not that great, and the images are still going to be kind of dull and lifeless looking. Despite not having the fastest processor in the world, the best camera, or even display for that matter, one thing a company should always try to make sure is good is the call quality. Unfortunately here with the One Touch Fierce, we're again pretty much disappointed. Calls on our end were kind of distant and muted sounding, and we also got a bit of a rattling vibration sound in the earpiece speaker. When turning the volume down to low, it's not as bad, but anything from mid to high volume, you're going to have a constant rattling vibration in the earpiece speaker. Almost sounds like there's something loose in there. People that we called said that our voices on their end also sounded a little bit muted and choppy, and they could pretty much easily tell we were using a cell phone. So a bit disappointed here again with the call quality. As far as the internal 1800 milliamp battery, it's going to provide us about 6.5 hours of continuous talk time, or about 1 day of mixed usage on a full charge. Like we said, since the battery is non-removable, you can't pop in another standard battery or an extended battery for the device, so pretty much going to have to keep the device charged up every night. So even though the Alcatel One Touch Fierce has an attractive price point of $164 with T-Mobile, there's basically some things that we just can't really get past here. Like we said, even though the display is a nice size, it's got that constant bluish hue to it. Viewing angles really aren't that great either. It's a bit of a letdown there. The quad-core processor does mediocre at best. It's really not going to blaze or compare to higher-end phones, but of course, for the price, you can't really expect that much. The 5-megapixel camera should at least have had autofocus with it. I mean, this is 2013, of course, not 2006. And the call quality, though, that's the real letdown here. Voices on both ends are a bit muted, and that constant rattling vibration in the earpiece speaker does really get annoying after a period of time. So overall, it's not that bad for the price. It would be better if it was a lower price, like maybe $50 or $99. $164 isn't really that bad. But still, in though, should have got a little bit more, still expecting a little bit more from the device. So if you want to check out some more information and read our review about the Alcatel One Touch Fierce, available from T-Mobile, check out our website at phonearena.com.